Welcome to our podcast, Michelle and Stacey, All Things Small Business.
We hope you enjoy this episode and please visit our website, michelleandstacey.com.au.
That's MICHELLEANDSTACEY.com.au. We would love to hear from you. Welcome to Michelle and Stacey, All Things Small Business. Well, Stace, we're up to episode 9 on our first series about selling your business. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about how selling your business impacts your staff.
Yes. So selling your business isn't just about financials and about paperwork.
No.
It's about the people. It's about the people who have helped you build your business.
Yeah.
So this is a really, really good opportunity to show that appreciation to the staff that have helped you along the way.
Well, it is thinking about the actual people and the staff, but there's probably really 3 things that I would look at when we're talking about staff as part of the sale. First of all is financial. Now, the financial side is really about what is it going to cost you and what is it going to cost the purchaser? Because ultimately it comes down to the actual price that you're ultimately going to get for selling your business. So you might say, oh, I'm going to sell my business, like they're going to pay $1 million for it. But if you have had, long-term staff, you've got to pay out, a large, long service leave and they haven't taken any holidays and all that kind of stuff, you're going to have to pay all that out.
Yes.
And that could be like hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you might think, oh, I'm going to sell it for $1 million, but actually it comes down to, let's say it's $300,000 that you've got to pay out your stuff. So it's really the actual price at the end of the day is only going to be $700. So you really want to understand that up front, and probably best to really sit down and work it out. You could also on the flip side say, oh, well, I want the purchaser, I want the staff to go with the purchaser and they take it on, but obviously they're not going to pay you $1 million. They're going to say, well, I'll pay you $1 million less that. So effectively you really need to work out that financial side. The second part, as you're alluding to before, is it's really about the morale of your staff and keeping the staff motivated throughout the process, making sure they stay with you. And that's all about how do you support them. And the third, I think that thing that you need to consider is what's going to be the options for your staff post-sale. Okay, so let's kind of talk about those in a little bit more detail in terms of, I think I've covered enough on the financial side, but really the morale and retaining staff. And it's probably, there might be key people in your business that you really need to keep it going.
Absolutely. And I think retaining those key people, if the plan is in particular for them to transition across to the purchaser of your business, is critical. The whole deal could fall over if we don't work out a strategy to do that. And I think part of that is working out who those key people are, the timing of telling those key people. So,
and what's the financial implications again? Because realistically, the key people, you might want to give them a staying on bonus or whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the other thing you've got to really consider is how well do you know your staff and how much do you trust them and with what level of information? Because you wouldn't want to be telling your key staff exactly all the nitty-gritty detail of what's going on.
Well, they don't need to know it.
No. They only need to know what they need to know when they need to know it. And that's part of just working out what that is. And the best way to do that is probably to talk to someone who's outside your business that will be objective so that they can challenge you and help you decide what you need to tell them and when you need to tell them.
Yeah, that's a good point because like some staff, and particularly if they've been with you a long time and they'll feel it's probably their business as well. But at the end of the day, look, it is your business and, they don't necessarily need to know everything. And you're the one making the decisions. So you need to, you don't want really them to be involved in in them making a decision about you selling your business. But at the same time, you've got to respect them as a person and all the effort that they've put in the past. So I think you really need to sit down and work out each of those people's personality, and you need to be able to frame something for them so they feel like they're included. So you don't turn around and go, no, 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 I don't need your input. There's ways you can say and do things and include them in certain things, but not necessarily in everything.
I think you said that very well. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I agree with that. And I think there's also um, another situation where the staff may not be going or transitioning across to the purchaser,
Mm.
but you need those key staff to keep the business going right up until the sale date. So,
And also, sorry to interrupt here,
No,
but don't forget, until the sale actually happens, it hasn't happened.
yes,
So you might, if you don't do it well, you might lose all these key staff and the sale might fall through, and then you're left with like a shell of a business without those people. And then you've got to start. And so that you haven't even sold it, you've got no money, and it's cost you a lot.
yes. So you could risk basically destroying your asset that you're actually trying to sell, that you think you've sold, but the deal might fall through. So it's a very fine balancing act, to be honest, between keeping the staff motivated, telling them as much as they need to know, but not too much along the way, so that you're keeping that communication piece going, because trust is everything,
Yeah.
especially with your staff.
Mm.
So, and you're also, let's be honest, this is also a business transaction that you're doing, that, in previous episodes we've discussed, that's either setting you up for retirement or setting you up for your next adventure, or you may be burnt out and I'm cashing in on this and getting out, and I'm going to take some time out to recover. Whatever it is, it's important to you in some way, shape, or form that this sale is successful.
Yeah, and obviously, if you have had these people with you for a long time, like they become like almost like your family. So you want the best for them, and you want to make sure that they're well looked after. So you don't kind of cut them off at the knees, and you don't ignore them. So it's really, I guess, at the end of the day, it's all about the plan that you've got, and this is where I guess what we're trying to say here is, selling a business, it sounds, oh, beauty, I'm going to sell. It's actually quite complex when you break it down. So this is a very important part about planning for your staff, because, this can have a disastrous impact on the business, whether you sell or not. So plan, plan, plan. And the earlier you do it, you need to think of all the different scenarios. You need to understand your staff and their personalities. You need to make sure that you've got a plan that respects that person individually, the whole team, not, you don't do a blanket plan across all of them. You're doing a plan for each person and how it's going to impact them. So, at the time comes when hopefully you've sold it well, that each person, whether they stay with the business or they leave, they come away with a good feeling.
Absolutely. And
feeling like they've been well looked after, and they've, not been duggled out of anything.
no, like you want to make sure, like all along the way they've been working with you, you've cared for them, and they've they've given back to you in so many different ways along the way, especially right now when you're trying to sell your business. They've created that asset for you. They've contributed to that. So this is your opportunity to really show them how much you do care for them and appreciate them. And one thing you touched on, Michelle, what you're just talking about then, which was, I guess, a scenario we haven't yet discussed, is that if the staff are not going across to the purchaser for whatever reason, it's just that wasn't part of the deal, how are you going to support them in their next ventures? So you're going to be going to them and telling them that I'm selling my business, and unfortunately, um, you moving across to the purchaser is not part of the deal. So basically your position is
Going to be redundant.
yeah.
And that's hard for anyone at any time. Yeah.
It is. It is. And it's even harder for those that have been with you for a long time, that may be older people that may have been thinking, oh, I'm just going to retire at this business. So, and but they
Yeah,
might
they might
start
still
another.
have a 5, 10 years to go. And if they're at that age, it might be hard for them to get a job. So
Yeah. So you really need to consider how you're going to have that conversation with them and what you're going to offer them as a support piece. Are you going, do you know other people in the industry that,
try and get them a job.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so you really need to think about that. And that's where I think Michelle was saying before, is that to really tailor a communication plan with each of the staff and what that looks like for them based on their personalities, their personal situations, with whatever you know about their personal situations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to do it depending on the number of staff that you've got. You don't have to go down and, hold everyone's hand and find everyone a job. But I think particularly those people that have been really key in your business, you want to make sure they're well looked after, like extremely well looked after. And then the other ones, you want to make sure that you're fair and you're respectful for the other staff, that, you would feel that, yes, I mean, you can't do everything for everyone.
You can't.
But if it was you, like I always think, put yourself in their position. So how are you treating me? And would I feel that it's fair and reasonable? I don't expect you, like they might not have been there long or whatever the reason, but, they don't come away and think, oh, well, they just used me and I, walk away with a bad taste in my mouth. No, I feel, when the emotions are put aside and they think about it, no, I was well respected and, looked after in the way I should have been.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really, I kind of try and go into most things in life with that in mind, is that, how would I like to be treated in
Exactly.
this situation?
Yeah. Well, really, Stace, I think, we could probably go on and just waffle, but I think we've kind of covered the key points here. And even though this is a fairly short little snippet,
Yes.
it's important. And the most thing is about planning and trying to understand your staff. Yeah. Do you want to maybe just wrap it up for us?
Absolutely. So hopefully from our short discussion that we've had today, you hopefully have heard from us on a few points, but I think some key takeaways that I would consider from this episode would be that you now have an idea on how to navigate the financial side of these staff transitions, including thinking about leave balances and payouts. Who do they sit with? Decide on the best time and way to inform the employees about the sale. Explore some different employment opportunities for staff after the sale, especially if they're not going to be transitioning across to the purchaser. And really think, consider, and develop a plan to ensure that there's a smooth transition for everyone. So not just you and the purchaser, but also for
all staff.
it's respect.
Yeah.
It
Yes.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks.
Yeah.
Again, thanks for listening to our little short, sharp session today. We'll hopefully speak to you in a couple of weeks on our next topic, which is going to be a little surprise. No, it's not. Our next topic is going to be about we've talked previously about negotiating the sale price, but this one is going to be on who should actually be negotiating it. So it's not, there's horses for courses. Some people are good at doing this. Some people are good at that. Some people are better at negotiating. So the next topic is going to be all about negotiations and how you approach it, who should do it, etc. Okay. Thanks very much for everyone. See ya.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. We hope you found it informative and useful. We would like to clarify that this podcast is for educational purposes only. The conversations are of a general nature and do not qualify or constitute as financial or tax advice. The views and opinions expressed by the hosts and guests are their own and do not reflect any official stance. We make no guarantees about the accuracy, reliability, or completeness of the information presented and are not liable for any losses or damages arising from its use. We recommend you seek the advice of your own legal, financial, or other licensed professional before making any decisions based on the information provided in this podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and tune in again soon to listen to further episodes.